Welcome back. Breaking news right now. Two new co-presidents of JP Chase just announced, effective immediately, Doug Petno and Troy Rohrbaugh. The two were previously co-CEOs of the Commercial and Investment Bank. Petno will now become sole CEO there, while Rohrbaugh will become CEO of Consumer and Community Banking. This sets up a race for the successor to Jamie Dimon as the CEO of JP Morgan. Marianne Lake, a former CFO, has announced her retirement. She is currently serving as the CEO of Consumer and Community Banking. Jamie Dimon seems to be narrowing the list of who'll succeed him. JP Morgan shares up a fraction this morning. President Trump, meanwhile, kicking off celebrations for America 250 last night, touting the Iran deal signed last week and future peace in the region. Secretary of State Marco Rubio currently traveling to the Mideast and in the Gulf right now, meeting with multiple allies in the region, promising that the U.S. will protect their interests as it seeks to hammer out this final settlement to end the conflict in Iran. This, as IAEA chief says, inspections will take place across Iran's nuclear sites in the future. Meanwhile, Israeli Defense Force officials are vowing that their troops will not withdraw from southern Lebanon, a main sticking point for Iran in a long-lasting deal. Joining me now is U.S. Ambassador to NATO, Matthew Whitaker. Ambassador, it's great to see you this morning. Thanks so much for being here this morning.
Hi, Maria. It's great to be with you again.
What are our NATO allies saying at this point, given the president's efforts to end this conflict?
Well, I mean, they're cheering him on. Obviously, you heard Secretary General Rutte yesterday in the Oval Office. The world is a better place since Iran has no longer the capability to produce a weapon of mass destruction. And our allies are raising their hand, if there is need to help clear mines from the strait, or if there is a freedom of navigation that needs help. But I think this pointed out once again how our allies are not as capable as we need them to be. And they need to spend money. They need to spend it sooner rather than later. And they need to have things like warships and tanks and air defense systems that they just don't have, and that the United States has been the provider of security, as you know, in Europe and across really the globe. And that day is over. President Trump was very clear yesterday that we have very high expectations of our allies, and they need to be moving out as soon as possible.
So tell me about that meeting. You were there at the White House yesterday with the NATO Secretary General and President Trump. And I know that the Secretary General defended European leaders for increasing defense spending to the alliance while also helping the U.S. in the Iran conflict, something that President Trump has been asking for years. Watch this.
This is the great strength of this president. It's always clear I'm committed to the NATO alliance, but I expect allies to spend more to equalize with the United States. What he achieved in The Hague, the 5% commitment. In 1 year, we had an almost 20% increase. Europeans and Canadians, the $139 billion nominal billion dollar spending increase is evidence that not only there was the commitment in The Hague, but now we are delivering. This is thanks to his leadership. So we all want Europe to play a bigger role in the conventional defense of Europe, and that is only right. It is a bit strange that we are still so overly dependent on a country 8 hours flying away from Amsterdam and Brussels, being the United States. The United States will stay involved conventional, but over time you will see Europe stepping up.
Is that what you're seeing, Ambassador? Tell us about Europe stepping up in terms of because I know there are still a couple of countries that have not kept pace with others.
Yeah, well, first, yesterday, I think, was a good meeting ahead of the Hague, the summit in Turkey on the 7th and 8th of July. And it was good to see my friend, President Trump, who I've known since he first came to Iowa in 2015 and helped him then. But what we're seeing at NATO is some allies are doing plenty. Some our allies are not doing enough, and we're pushing them very hard. But none of this movement, none of the $1.2 trillion that was pointed out yesterday that has been spent by Europeans and Canada on defense since 2016. Really, that's all because of Donald Trump, and it's consistent with his terms. But at the same time, just in the since we had the summit last summer, it has been almost $120 billion that's been spent, and half of that is being spent in the United States on armaments that only we can sell. And so we have order books that are in the I think approximately $60 billion that American companies are going to build in the coming years, and that number is only going to increase because we make the best stuff, as you know, and we can make it at scale. But we do need to push, and I know President Trump was with the defense contractors yesterday. We need to push them to make a lot more, because not only does the United States need it, but the world needs it. And since we make the best military armaments and weapons in the world, there is tremendous demand because of this increased spending.
Yeah, and it's interesting because, we've got the best equipment in the world, but the president is stepping up even that. Now he wants this focus on mass production of drones. We saw how well those drones worked in Ukraine, and we saw Iran try to get a leg up with those drones. What can you tell us about the response from defense manufacturers? Will they be able to scale up the way the president wants?
They will, and I think there's a virtuous cycle right now where there is Congress is permitting the Department of War to make longer-term contracts. That then is allowing companies to invest capital in more factories. We're also seeing co-production and joint ventures happening in Europe. I did a tour a couple of weeks ago of 4 countries, including Germany, to encourage American industry to partner with European industry to increase the amount that is being made. But you're right. If you look at the battlefield, the modern battlefield, the critical weapon systems are not only the autonomous drones, whether they're in the air or on the ground or in the water. There is also a tremendous need for air defense and counter UAS systems, and also things like cloud and AI, because the modern battlefield, it involves space, it involves cyber, and it really is a multi-domain battlefield. And we need to make sure that the United States continues to lead, but that we also have strong and capable allies alongside. And for too long they were not there, and I think we have finally spurred them on. But let's be honest, it's because of Donald Trump. It is because Donald Trump sees the world as it is, not as some rose-colored glasses. He sees a dangerous world. He knows what needs to be done. He knows the United States is going to be strong, but we also need our allies to be strong. That's the way we're going to defend and deter, and that's the way that we're going to win the future.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ambassador, the White House is reportedly moving ahead with the sale of the military jet engines to Turkey. Those engines, produced by General Electric, will power Turkey's first indigenous combat jet to help the country sustain its defense. What are your thoughts on this? This is interesting that not only is the president upping spending in the U.S., but he's trying hard to up the orders from our neighbors across the world.
You're right, and I was just in Turkey a month ago and went all over for 4 days and had conversations about these jet engines. And what we know about Turkey is that they are a very capable defense industrial base. In fact, in the NATO alliance, except for the United States, they are the most capable. They're making about 50 ships in their shipyards. They're making jets that they need these engines for. They're a tremendous economy with big ambitions to be a great ally that anchors the southeast region for NATO and the alliance. And at the same time, we obviously have an issue with the Russian air defense system they bought. I know my friend Tom Barrack, our ambassador to Turkey, is negotiating that issue as we speak, and I'm hoping we can get that resolved by the summit. And if we don't, we'll continue to get it resolved. We will work to get it resolved as soon as possible. But I think it is important that relationship and strengthening Turkey, making sure that they are allied with the United States and NATO is super important. But again, their defense and industrial base is really the second best in the alliance next to the United States, and I think we need to encourage that.
All right, we will leave it there and keep watching your work, certainly. Ambassador, great to see you this morning. Thank you.
Yeah, good to see you again.
Matthew Whitaker. We'll be right back. Stay with us.